Second episode opens on July 12, 1943, at the Augusta harbor in Sicily, Italy. Aboard a boat, Reg Seekings tells Paddy Main that the position must be cleared before the others land in 3 minutes. Paddy recites the Irish folktale, Salmon of Knowledge, about ordinary men being smarter than the highborn like the SOBs who rule over them. Reg alerts him of an approaching German jetty officer. Unconcerned, Paddy continues the folktale. The officer meets another officer, and they return to the pier. Utilizing binoculars, they get a better look at the boat. While unpacking the bazookas, Reg warns Paddy that the officers will hear him speaking English. One of the officers orders them to move away from the harbor wall, or they will shoot. Paddy continues the folktale. Reg says they need to leave. The officer gives them 5 minutes to leave. Paddy and Reg retrieve the bazookas and fire. Several other officers are hit while trying to flee. They change guns and fire. The jetty officer throws a grenade. SRS success at the Pig's Snout allowed Allied invasion forces to land. The SRS moved to secure the port of Augusta, just up the coast of Sicily. Bill Fraser tells Paddy that the prisoners claim the main German unit left yesterday. Dave Kershaw boasts of not having to share the place with the Germans. Reg and Paddy lead a unit through the city. Paddy throws Dave a flag to raise and orders his men not to loot until he gives the okay. An officer emerges with a case of alcohol. Paddy says they stay there tonight, and at 4 a.m., they make their way to the Castello. Reg hands him a bottle of alcohol. Hearing an explosion nearby, Paddy calmly tells his men to take shelter before entering a church where a Nazi flag hangs. Retrieving a candle, Paddy sets the flag on fire. He washes in a baptismal font. While Pat Riley sits on a bench drinking alcohol, Paddy promises to share the profit from the church's assets with those who approve. John Tonkin expresses his disapproval. Paddy says Pope Pius XII is tied to Hitler and Mussolini. Bill Fraser believes Paddy's gun hanging on the crucifix is bad luck. Paddy insists Christ is in his heart, not in the oak crucifix. Explosions can be heard in the distance. Reg leads Paddy to Father Cavalli on the floor. Paddy rejects Father Cavalli and calls him a drunk. Cavalli claims the town was evacuated yesterday, but they asked him to stay. Paddy snatches his bottle of alcohol and throws it across the room. He jerks him up and asks who asked him to stay. Cavalli says they wanted him to give the Americans a message. Paddy draws his gun on him and threatens to shoot him if he calls them Americans again. Cavalli claims the Cosa Nostra wants to help them. Pat tells him that Cosa Nostra is like the Mafia and they hate the Germans. Cavalli says Capo dei Capi can help. Paddy refuses to meet with the Cosa Nostra. Paddy tells his men that he will fire live rounds to wake them at 4 a.m. Bill Fraser and Cavalli speak out against it. Drawing his gun, Paddy fires several shots into the air and at Cavalli. Bill Fraser criticizes Paddy for acting like a child. Paddy gives him his gun before going to look for a bank. Walking a short distance, he discovers a bank, stops to look at it, and walks to the pier. He takes the jetty officer's gun and kicks him into the sea. Bill Sterling asks if he should have given the officer a decent burial. Paddy assures him that the officer would have done the same if he had been killed. He sarcastically suggests William will arrive in Cannizzaro once the gunfire is over. William informs him that the attack on Cannizzaro has been postponed. When Paddy talks about making his own war, William says he is in command. Paddy enters the water and floats over to the deceased jetty officer's body. He promises to ask for forgiveness in Berlin. Forte di Gavi, POW Camp 5 in Italy, dressed as a nun, Eve Mansour enters a cell and drops a box on the desk. Shocked, David Sterling says she stopped his heart and kisses her. She claims General de Gaulle authorized her visit. They express their love for each other. With 4.5 minutes before the guard arrives, he helps her undress and they get intimate. A short time later, she informs him of her plan to join the British and American regiment en route to Cannizzaro. She believes they trust her. He says she will join his brother, William, who is in command. She tells him to send an encrypted letter to William to ask him to assist her. David suspects that's the only reason she visited. Eve gets upset and says she must go. He apologizes and helps her get dressed. They express their love for each other before she leaves. Once alone, he swears that he will be with her. Jock tells the men that Paddy wants them to gather. Paddy says it means he has an idea when he rings the bell. He says they must keep themselves entertained because they're stuck there. Paddy thinks they should climb the mountain nearby. William tells Paddy he's received a complaint about his behavior from the priest. They argue back and forth for the longest time. William reveals the new attachment is called SAS, or the 2nd Special Air Service Regiment. The new officers he selected are eager to see the originals. The men march to the mountain. Johnny Cooper says they've been up and down the mountain. Now Paddy claims their goal is spiritual. He says they looked over Italy and realized there was a greater strategy to which they were subordinate. Their fury has diminished, and they've achieved their goals. Reg comes over with a donkey. He explains he used the money from the church's collection tin to buy the donkey. Someone from above aims at Paddy and the others before shooting a bottle held by Dave Kershaw. Pat Riley speaks to the Italians and suspects they're sharing the beach with the Sicilian Mafia. The Italians prop up a cross with a makeshift body on it. John asks Paddy not to shoot because they don't need unnecessary enemies. Paddy finds out that they're on the same side. Then, the men decide to go swimming. William speaks to Father Cavalli, who says they wish to welcome him to Augusta. Cavalli says Paddy has made enemies. William says they're going to move out in the morning. Paddy interrupts to say he's looking for a man of the cloth and a stolen donkey. They sit down and talk about the 2 SAS. Cavalli says he was told that they could have taken Paddy's life twice on the beach. They missed him on purpose because it was a warning. Paddy says they took things that didn't belong to him. They want to meet and talk. William says they were encouraged to make use of criminal elements on the island. Paddy is told he'll be moving out tomorrow. William orders him to develop ties with the Mafia. He will meet them and the resistance. Paddy says he wants the pack back. When he steps outside, Paddy sees the new 2 SAS, including Staff Sergeant Jim Almonds. Jim tells Paddy how he got involved in the unit and pleads with Paddy to help him get out of it. Paddy agrees to do what he can. Cavilla has the donkey, which he returns to Paddy's men. Dave approaches him to speak to him in private. They go to the confessional booths. Dave says he still hears the voices of the men in the water. Some of the others do as well, but none of them talk about it. Dave believes they killed those lads by leaving them. Paddy interrupts to say he rang the bell to signify it is cocktail hour. They all go outside and sit down for the meeting with the Sicilian Mafia. Alessia and the others arrive and say they're the resistance, Giustizia e Libertà Brigade. She points out that the Cosa Nostra is not there. Alfredo says they are anarchists and communists. The others are scum. Alessia says they will fight alongside the Cosa Nostra until the war is over. Then they will see them hang. Alfredo says he does not trust the priest. Bill hears an engine. Planes arrive and begin shooting at them. They take cover and begin shooting at the planes. Alfredo takes claim of the Stuka, which will make it 8 in all. Alessia tells Paddy the Cosa Nostra doesn't have allegiances and demands to know what he did to offend them. Paddy says it taught him to be more selective in which orders he obeys. Jim informs Paddy that Father Cavalli joined the Germans. Paddy claims he set them up. Grabbing his arm, Jim blames it on his actions inside the church and urges him to change. Paddy believes William sent him and his men into a death trap. William admits it was a bad decision and regrets trusting Father Cavalli. Paddy agrees to accept his apology if he authorizes Jim's transfer to the SRS. Refusing to authorize the transfer, William orders Paddy to take his men north toward Cannizaro within the hour. Paddy agrees and salutes him. A short time later, Paddy and his men blow up the bank and collect the cash. Paddy and the others fill their nets with money. Paddy returns with the spoils. Reg tells Paddy he gave the donkey the freedom of the city and they left the churches alone. Paddy says leaving the churches alone was Jim's order. Jim joins them and tells Paddy that he promised to take control of his mortal soul until they reach Berlin. Paddy tells everyone to welcome Jim back. William sees Eve approaching on a boat. He immediately blames David.